Okay, nagbabalik po ang Republika at Mentong, I caught you at the
Yeah,
middle of the sentence.
I wanted to explain that we have to broaden our vision and strategy if we hope to succeed over time.
Okay.
Because we set the premise that Malaysia, as Malaysia, cannot stand up to the much larger, much braver nation, the Philippines.
Yes.
But they have British and the US behind them. That's a fact. And they've been doing their politics very well. So they have good relations with the British and the Americans. But at the same time, they have better relations with China than the Philippines, while the Philippines has been shooting its own foot on all fronts. Why? Because the leadership, and somebody mentioned the family. The family
are covering all the bases.
Yeah, the family is a treasonous family. I say this openly. From the time of the Japanese to today,
Which family?
Always,
Which family?
The Aquino family.
Okay.
Kaya yung kampanya ni Aquino na Dugong Makabayan, I went to town because sabi ko, I just posted on the internet yung tatay niya at yung collaboration with the Japanese and so on. So, this is a selfish family, and we have to talk not only about Penoy but the family, Cory Aquino, and so on.
Okay.
Because their point of reference is always what is good for them. There is no collective sense. There is no sense of being part of a nation.
Okay. Pakita ko lang yung picture na sinasabi natin kanina.
Hindi pa ba?
Oo,
sige.
papakita natin. Para, ayan, pakilakihan lang natin na konti. Oo. If you notice, parang amputated yata yung mapa ng Pilipinas. Siguro for an ordinary Filipino, that is acceptable as a fashion, as a fashion statement. But for the President of the Philippines, what do you think? Anybody can...
Well, this is a very clear statement of what he thinks about Sabah and what his mother and his father thinks about Sabah. Sabah is not in the picture and he's supposed to represent the country. He can wear any other kind of shirt, but why wear that? He's emphasizing the map as seen from Malaysia's point of view, the map of the Philippines.
Despite the Professor Magallon decision of the Supreme Court.
And despite the will of the Filipino people, I think that's very clear.
Yeah.
My daughter gave me a jacket with that map. I have not worn it because I cannot wear it. It's been there for 5 years, I have not worn it. So,
hindi kompleto, no?
No. Now, anyway, to pursue also yung point nga kanina, we have to learn to correct our diplomacy. But yung it's a fruit of poison tree. Our Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary today is a green card holder.
Okay.
So how will we win this? And my final statement is, so that I do not take too much time, our first enemy is the enemy within. Yung nasa loob natin.
Sarili natin.
Yung hindi, tayo, we're not enemies. We have the same perspective. But those within our community, that is
parang mga makapili.
That's a
Di ba sinasabi mga makapili?
Makapili nga.
Sige, okay. Tinumbok ko na lang.
That's my final statement.
Yeah, the Sultanate is trying to come up, trying to talk to the Chinese, no? The People's Republic of China. Are you trying to make representations of the People's Republic of China?
I just don't know about that, no? Yung with the Sultan talking to China. But ang sinasabi ko nga dito, any help that we could get
is open. Okay.
And we are very much willing, kung sino man yung bansa na yan, to whoever country that would be, would have the interest in helping us claim Sabah, and they're all welcome.
Ano ang papel na pwedeng gampanan ng MNLF dito sa usapin na ito? Anybody?
Well, I've watched in the news about MNLF troops getting ready, to help in the crisis. But I've spoke with some people who are members of MNLF, members of kung ano-ano po yung mga grupo na yan, and they told me that they wanted to go to Sabah and not be part of any group, but
the royal,
as a Tausug and as a member of the Sultanate of Sulu.
Very well said. Ano ang, alam niyo po, Governor Altila, the MNLF says they represent the Bangsamoro. Do they represent the interest of the Filipino Tausugs? Do they represent the interest of the Royal Sultanate of Sulu? Do they represent the homeland of Sabah for the Filipino Tausugs?
Well, by and large, the MLF is mainly in the mainland of Mindanao,
Oo.
predominantly in the Cotabato, Alanao region.
Oo. Kasi kinurunahan sila na sila ang representative na Bangsamoro by this government.
Well, actually, the one recognized by the OSC,
It's the MNLF, yes.
Tomorrow National Liberation Front.
Yes.
And they have observer status in the OIC, and that has not changed
Yes.
up to today.
Yes.
Maybe an anointment by this administration doesn't really matter so much.
It-
But let me go to that
Yeah.
issue of
Advisor.
advisor of
Yeah.
President. We had a closed-door session with Secretary Marrojas.
Okay.
Some time ago. I was with the Sultan Ismail Kiram. And so we had an open exchange.
Uh-huh.
And so I asked him, I said, Mr. Secretary, why is it that the President cannot talk to Sultan Ismail Kiram, who is a prominent citizen of this country, and yet he has time to go all the way to Tokyo and meet with the rebel leader Murad. And Malacanang to Maharlik is only an hour's drive. Or, if he's too busy, he can always call for the Sultan to be with him. I told him that.
Governor, I beg to disagree. It's not an hour's drive.
Less.
As president,
Yeah.
if he goes there with this motorcade,
Yes.
without the wang-wang, but with the hawi,
Yeah.
with the flasher, it will take less than 15, 20
Yes,
minutes.
yeah, he can go there. Anyway,
Yes.
that was the first. Then the second, I asked him just this. In the first series of sort of initiated dialogue,
Yes.
where I was with the Sultan, they sent the Chief of Staff, General Bautista.
Okay.
And so I told Secretary Rojas, if I were one of the advisors of the President, I would not send a military man.
Okay.
It's not a military, it's more political than
Correct.
military.
Yes.
So he was looking for answers. He could not search for the answers. I just want to put that in to the discussion.
So, nothing resolved
None.
with Marrojas.
None.
Wala.
Kamentong, Marrojas.
They don't intend to resolve anything in favor of the Philippine position. So, why are you still looking for results from them? You will not get the results from them because they are towing the line of the foreign interests. Di ba? So I will not waste time in looking for answers in Malacanang. The answers will be with the people, with us explaining to the people, and the people expanding their understanding of the situation, so that in the future, selection of leaders, this is factored in.
Malacanang says there is a chasm of difference between the peace process with the MNLF vis-a-vis the Sabah issue. Is there no umbilical cord to this issue?
You know, the Sultanate of Sulu and the Sabah issue is
Yeah.
an inherent part of peace process.
Oo.
So whether they like it or not, it's there.
Uh-huh.
It should be addressed. Because, you know, in history po, that's why I think there's no progress in this country, is that because we don't know how to look back.
Uh-huh.
Ang sinabi nga ng ating national hero, ang hindi marunong lumingon sa pinanggalingan,
Yes.
hindi makakarating sa paroroonan. And look at where we are now in Asia.
Uh-huh.
You know, wala pang Pilipinas, the Sultanate of Sulu has been in existence.
Correct.
And during Ming Dynasty, we have already trade relations
Yes,
with China.
yes.
And as a matter of fact, one Sultan of Sulu died
Yeah.
during his visit in China. And
Yes.
there you can find it in Shandong province. The tomb that
Yes.
was made like Rizal Park.
Uh-huh.
Here it's considered like Rizal Park. There it's the tomb of the Sultan of Sulu who died in the 14th century during the Ming Dynasty on his visit to China. And his family lived already in China. So, kanina nga you were saying that the Philippines' diplomatic relations with China is not as good as Malaysia's diplomatic relations with China. But I think the Sultanate of Sulu has a very good relationship with China. Because in the olden times, it was a decree of the Sultan to protect every Chinese individual in their territory, in the Sultanate's territory. So, ang katumbas po ng isang Chinese, kapag kinanti mo yan, ay 10 tausug. So, every tausug is protecting the Chinese in the Sultanate's area.
Let me interject
please.
here.
Go ahead, Governor.
The Sabah claim or the Sabah issue is older even than this republic.
Correct, correct.
So you cannot put in juxtaposition the framework agreement vis-a-vis the Sabah claim. this antedated even our own government. And so, when...
Ang sinasabi ninyo, mas mahalaga itong issue
mas
na Sabah.
mahalaga kaysa
Ang
Freemake
sinasabi ng
Agreement.
Malacanang, hindi daw eh.
Well,
Mas mahalaga daw yung peace process kaysa dito sa Sabah issue.
Well,
Parang ganun pinapalabas nila.
I don't see how they can put that much premium to the framework agreement than the Sabah claim issue. Now, having said that, I think it will be wise, educational, even just informative, for this administration to read 3 very brilliant authoritative historians' books.
Yes.
Dr. Cesar Adib Mahul's Muslims in the Philippines. That's the first book actually
I have that book.
came out.
Yes.
Dr. Samuel Tan's Muslim Armed Struggle.
Yes.
And the 2 volumes of Dr. Onofre de Corpus. My,
Very expensive books.
yes,
Yes, I
Roots of
know.
the Filipino People.
I have read them also.
Because when they first started talking about this issue, as if the Sabah claim issue was never there. So I think it's time for them to educate themselves and get into history.
Yes po.
Wala.
But, I'm still, Filipinos like to give this
Yeah.
administration their benefit of the
Yeah,
doubt.
of course.
But when you draw a straight line across all the dots, it behooves you to ask the question, why is this administration acting in this fashion?
But, po,
And the only conclusion seems to be mentongs.
Oy, kasi paulit-ulit niyo tinatanong, ayaw niyo tanggapin.
Kaya nga,
Traidor ang naghaharing uri sa bansang ito. Traidor, mga utosan ng Amerikano at Britanya.
Pati Malaysia.
Uulitin ko pa ba yun?
Isama mo rin ang Malaysia.
Kasi yun deputy ng Britanya at Estados Unidos, ang Malaysia deputy, kaya yung naghaharing uri dito, sumasabay din dyan.
What happens if the UMNO, doesn't succeed in this coming
It
election?
will not change because
Pareho pa din.
even Anwar Ibrahim is a tool of the Western powers. One faction lang siya, US. So,
The Malaysians are talking about a political solution. I don't know what, in quotation marks, a political solution to Sabah means. They're willing to sit down, but they're talking about a political solution. I do not know what that means. Have you heard of that?
neither do I. Ano pong ibig sabihin nila with political solution?
Na pwedeng pag-usapan siguro. I do not know what that means.
But,
Have you heard of that?
Kung pwedeng pag-usapan, from the very beginning po, that the homecoming of my uncle in
Yes.
Sabah has been a threat
Correct.
to Malaysia. We keep on saying that we want a dialogue with Malaysian government. But until now, wala pa rin. They've been claiming that they want this to be resolved peacefully. Paano po? Patunayan nila, mag-usap.
Position, yes, go ahead.
Just to enlighten our public, no? I think many still do not understand this issue that deeply, no? First of all, as everybody knows now, because it's out in the international media, the Sultan of Brunei gave this piece of property to the Sultanate of Sulu.
Yes.
That's fact number 1.
Yes, definitely.
Fact number 2, you cannot give Eric anything that you do not own.
Of course, definitely.
Which was what the British did to the Federation of Malaysia.
Correct.
Giving Sabah for
1963,
inclusion.
yes.
Okay. Then third, the issue whether it is a lease or a sale, we don't even have to discuss that.
Because?
Because you cannot give what you do not own. So just based on that,
And
you don't even have to talk about whether it's leased or sold.
And in-
Because the Great Britain now, which is British at the time, cannot give away what she doesn't own. So at that point in time, in terms of this transaction, void na yun.
In the first place, I think the first understanding between the British and the
Yeah.
Sultanate was rent.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
So
Of course.
it cannot evolve
It cannot.
to
To sale.
session.